Howdy, folks. Justin here, and I am really excited to be talking to you today about my visit to Direwolf Digital's offices, which are in downtown Denver. I'll start from the beginning to explain how I got here. I was in the closed beta. I started playing in May, and I love the Elder Scrolls. I was on some email list for some reason or another, and got heads up by the beta. Went ahead and shot him an application, not even really knowing that Legends was a card game. And I did that sometime this spring. And then when I got the invitation, complete surprise. But anyway, in the closed beta, there was a Discord channel where several people who worked at Direwolf would hang out and ask questions and talk to people there, and just sort of get their impressions of what everybody was thinking and feeling, and just listen in on the community as they were talking about the game, which I think is a pretty cool way to get hip to the vibe, right? Um,
Time to fight.
I thought, as once the friends list was introduced, I figured I had nothing to lose, so I sent friend requests to DC Deacon, Pete Hines at Bethesda, and to Maricon. So I was like, well, what do I have to lose? They both accepted my friend's request, which is beyond my wildest expectations. And, it didn't really affect anything I was doing for a while. But over time, like, when I would play a game against Maricon, because neither one of us were active in the Discord channel anymore, we would exchange a few kind words afterwards, like, oh, good game, or this, that happened. It was just really kind of cool. And we really, the first time we had like a long conversation, or not even long, but a longer conversation, was when he played the monk deck, the absolutely insane monk altar deck, and we talked about it, and he was more than willing to share the list with me, which was just the coolest thing, right? So it wasn't long after that then that he messaged me and he realized, like, hey, we're both in Denver. And honestly, I don't think I realized at the time that Direwolf Digital was in Denver. It turns out their offices is actually about 5 minutes away from me. I spent more time driving, thinking I knew where I was going to get there, than I actually took me to actually get there. It is just down the street, which is the absolute coolest thing. Yeah, so once we realized we were in the same city, about a month ago, Maricon was kind enough to extend an invitation to me to just come kick it sometime. Do lunch, right? That's what he asked me to do, was do lunch, and I was floored, right? I mean, we're all probably pretty nerdy, right? So I'm sure you can understand like what it must feel like for the creators of like the coolest game you've played to be like, hey, we're down the street from you where you are every single day, and why don't we hang out, right? I mean, if I was another man, it might be,
As good as
you know, Pink Floyd calls up. I mean, I do love Pink Floyd, but this is that level for me. This was just absolutely the most insane thing. When a month went by and I didn't hear anything, I just assumed the office was busy. And to be honest with you, it's not that I wasn't excited to do it at some point. It was more like I was terrified to do it at some point. And who knows what was going to happen, right? Like how embarrassing could I be? And
my claws are yours.
so the day came. Last week he's like, let's do it sometime next week. What's good for you? I was like, Monday is. I'm sorry, I said Wednesday is really the only day I can get out of the office. So let's do Wednesday. He's like, okay. So again, and at this point, I'm just expecting to like go to the office, meet him in the front of the office, and just two of us maybe go grab a steak and shake or something like that, a Whataburger. I don't know what part of the country you're in watching this, um, and chat for about 10 minutes because I assume that anybody this cool in my mind is got to be way too busy for me. But it turns out when I get up there, um, First thing I do, sign a non-disclosure agreement that I'm not going to talk about what's in the office or anything I might accidentally see, which makes sense. So don't expect any spoilers, unfortunately. But um, this place is huge. They have the entire floor of the building. There are computers lined up all over the place. So many people hard at work. I mean, this is a big company, and I mean, to be honest, I didn't really have any idea what it took to run a gaming company. But I did not expect it to be this many people, and there were people everywhere. There was artwork all over the place for the game Eternal. It looked absolutely beautiful. There's a wall of art. They have the most amazing game room. Just a lot of really cool stuff. Nothing, nothing I'm gonna spoil or anything. And to be honest, I avoided spoilers at all costs while there. But it was just a whole lot of fun. To be in that office. And the moment that I was most dreading and excited about was to start meeting people I had seen on camera. And so I meet Maricon, and it's just him in the hallway, and he shakes my hand, and I do all right there. I don't fall apart. But then we're walking around, and I'm starting to see people I've seen on stream. I see Matt Nass, who I just watched a YouTube video where he's playing Magic with another guy just like a few days before. See other people I recognize from the Magic Pro Tour, and then Luis Scott Vargas comes, and I put out my hand. And I say, "I'm a big fan," and he says, "I'm a big fan," and that was the I mean that was the coolest moment of my life, man. Like him and all of these people, knowing who I was just the most surreal thing that I have ever experienced, and let's keep it 100. If you watched my video where I talk about why I like playing this game, some really bizarre things have happened in my life, and I've been through some strange experiences. But this was, this is getting invited down onto the field to, you know, return the first kick of the Super Bowl. I mean, this was absolutely amazing to me. So, yeah, hung out in their office for a bit. Got to see a ton of people working real hard, met a lot of cool people. And then 8 of us went out and walked a few blocks to a Mexican restaurant where we sat down and, being me, I was like, I got to sit at the end of the table away from as many people as possible. Like, this is a little overwhelming. And they're like, no, no, sit in the middle. So I sat down in the middle, and this is the part that I think is most important to try to communicate to anybody who's a fan of this game. Um, well, first of all, these guys have so much game experience, both design and play. I mean, multiple members, multiple successful members of the Magic Pro Tour, successful professional poker players, people who worked on Star Wars games, EverQuest, board games, worked for Sony, I mean, have just like this incredible litany of accomplishments in this field. Um, so I was completely outclassed. Like I'm a competent Legends player, but I could not help but feel like a complete idiot every time I opened my mouth talking about Legends with these guys. But they were so genuine and so kind, asking me my opinions on things like that. Just really having a great time, picking my head as I got to try to know everybody around me. Um, Lunch was an absolute blast, and the part that I wanted to get to, the meat of this, is that these guys know this game and they know the community. They would refer to posts on the Elder Scrolls Legends Reddit by the posters' names. And they knew more of them than I do, and I spend an unhealthy amount of time on the Elder Scrolls Legends Reddit. Um, they knew those people's names, and they know your names, and they know what you're commenting about. They know what you're talking about, what you're interested in, what your concerns are, and it, it was inspiring. I mean, I I had no idea that people were this passionate about what they do, but they know the difference between, you know they the amount of attention to detail that these guys put into costing every single card, making sure that the game is fun, making sure that every kind of fun that you want to have is possible. I mean, these guys talked about all of it with this enthusiasm and drive that like you rarely see in anybody doing anything. And it makes sense. They have like the coolest job in the world. I mean, I'm sure there's more to it than just sitting around and playing games, but I bet there's a lot of sitting around and playing games. In fact, people mentioned how much they sit around and play games, but they absolutely are concerned, and you can see like on their faces sometimes when they're talking about concerns that have been brought up on the Reddit that we were talking about, uh, absolute like genuine empathy for their fans of the game and what they were going through, what they were experiencing. But I'll never forget the first time I heard the name of a redditor uh, mentioned by one of these guys, because it was just like I was shocked, and it really impressed me because that's the kind. I mean, so obviously I don't make games, but like I do a lot of work with people, and I care a lot about people. And to be honest, sometimes I tend to think of the world as sort of like me versus them, in terms of us versus them, in terms of people who are trying to help people and people who are not. And I know it's not a great way to look at the world, but it's so rare to meet people outside of the line of work I do caring so much about people. It's rare in the line of work I do to see people really caring so much about people. But the guys I had lunch with, they care about what you're thinking. It's not just a job. It's a mission to spread the joy of this game to you. I mean, just like I feel like inspired to share joy with people, they felt the same way, and it was the coolest thing in the world. I'm still getting a little giddy thinking about it now. I mean, this was my I become a little schoolgirl in front of Zayn from One Direction moment. And by the way, I had to look up a name of a kid from One Direction. Don't think I just knew that, but I was thinking about how I felt, and I looked it up. I swear. Anyway, so I apologize about not having a lot of gameplay content out this week. Um, there's a little bit of miscommunication about releasing the video about this and stuff. And all I can say is that that passion that went into the core set, the first set of cards in this game, it's coming into all the future sets too. I mean, like, they want to know about what we want to know about, and they take into consideration what we're interested in, what we're into in this game, both when they're making patches and when they're making cards in general. And these aren't just fans of card games, if you're concerned about that. These are fans of the Elder Scrolls. I mean, we talked about Skyrim for quite a while. These are guys who know the weird characters that I like Jazargo. I mean, Jazargo came up, you know? These are the types of things that these guys know about and care about. And these are people that, if I didn't trust them already because I really enjoy their product, I absolutely trust them now because of the passion that I saw when I was talking to them. Anyway, I'm really excited to be part of this game right now. We are on the cusp of release, and I think this is the most absolute exciting moment in the game since beta started for me. Um, I believe it's only a matter of time before this game explodes, and I have complete confidence in the people who are making it. I hope you guys, maybe I was able to share a little bit of that enthusiasm and confidence with you, and yeah, just remember, when you have a concern and you bring it up, someone's listening, and I think that's important to remember. So, I'll see you all on the ladder.